Hi, Rich Tarani. Thanks for watching. We're at ITEXPO 2015, Anaheim, California. The month is October. On our program is Mitch Radport. He's with CyberFlow Analytics, and Mitch and I, we go back a couple decades, which is fairly scary to say, and I've known him a long time, and he's on this really cool venture right now, and I was hoping, Mitch, you could tell us a little bit about the company, what you guys do.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Rich. Really appreciate it. Just to give you a little bit of a background, we're a cybersecurity analytics software company, and I know it's a mouthful. A lot of people ask me, like, what does that mean? So what we do is, let me tell you how this idea came. Our CEO is Dr. Hossein Islambolci, and you know him. He used to be the CTO of AT&T. So he partnered up with Tom Caldwell, and Tom was an executive at Microsoft and then Cisco before they joined with Dr. Islambolci, and they came up with this idea of, well, you know what, there's all kinds of breaches happening, and networks are being sort of, penetrated left and right. We need something better. We need something we can do. And his idea was like, let's, run an analytics software. Let's just build an analytics that can actually monitor the network and come up with anomalies. So they went and got Louis Gasparini, who was a CTO at RSA, and also Dr. William Wright, who actually was one of the people that helped invent the Falcon fraud detection system. And they built the Flowscape software. So that's how we started. We started about 2.5 years ago. We're backed by Toshiba and Siemens. Those are our major investors. And that's basically how the company started.
That's great. So how does it work specifically?
Flowscape, which is the name of our software. Flowscape utilizes advanced analytics models, right? So what we do is we basically look at the client, protocols, those type of communications in a network, and build a machine learn a baseline of what the normal communication is in your network. And then based upon that, it's unsupervised. Actually, machine learns by itself. And then based upon that, we start looking for anomalies in a network. So if somebody's coming into, like, for instance, they're using your VPN and come in and start doing reconnaissance, we normally catch them at a very, very early stage. And what we do, Rich, is real time. A lot of systems you see out there are, in a big data, world, people using a lot of data mining, like they're using Hadoop environment technology, which is great. There's just nothing wrong with that. But what we do is we actually sit on the core of the network, and we look at the fire hose of information that is just being poured, through the network, and we monitor for anomalies in that point.
So you and I were talking a little bit off camera before, and the best way I could distill the concept is that if a traditional firewall and intrusion detection system is like an alarm on a house, or maybe it's the locks on the house, on the outside of the house, the locks on the windows, and your technology, really it's the analytics that is like the motion detector within the home. In other words, there will always be someone that slips by the outside perimeter security, because as smart as the people are who make the doors and the windows and the locks on the doors and the windows, there's always someone smarter, or there will always be someone who forgets to lock one of the doors. Exactly. So there's always a way into the network, and the point is that if people are going to spend all their money on securing the outside of the network, then they aren't aware of what's going on the inside of the network. Correct. Because they're kind of blind to it, because they think that it's almost like locking your house and going away and feeling 100% confident without an alarm system with motion detection that your house is not going to get broken into. And the reality is you don't know that it's not broken into unless you have a system which detects the motion, or in this case, the anomalous IP interaction, or IP interaction between multiple devices, right, or from IP to IP, something like that.
By IP, by port, we monitor all of those information. And you're absolutely right. That is the case. I also like to compare it to a football game. Like they have their offensive team, and you have your defensive team, so you're going to have to match every move that they make. So yes, you need your firewalls. There's no question about that. You need your SIM. You need your like endpoint monitoring or sandbox or whatever you have. But you're also going to need analytics these days, because they learn how to bypass those machines. They know how to get through them. And because these attacks are, let me go back a little bit. We're not talking about just a normal virus or something. We're talking about the very, very sophisticated attacks. We're talking about those slow attacks, which called advanced persistent threats, that these guys come in and they go to sleep for like 3 months, and then they get up and do something else, and then they go to sleep for 3 months. So, your SIM data can only handle 3 months of data before you archive it. You can't keep all that data, right? Plus, your data mining system is going to go crazy trying to go through all of those.
Especially when you have IoT, right? Devices with all the data from IoT.
And exactly, that's going to be the case. I mean, once you get to the IoT, the amount of data that's coming in, it's going to be huge. It's going to be an enormous amount of data. So you need an analytics that actually be able to weave through all of those, say, no, these are normal data. These are the type of things that we've seen them before. Or these are, for instance, some of these things are activities that may look abnormal, but they are employee activity that we have seen before. So we can actually go on and say, no, don't worry about this, don't look at this. Look for what's really important. What is it all of a sudden Rich's computer start talking to Jim's computer? They've never done that. Or why all of a sudden, I have multiple, like stores. They should be communicating directly with the headquarters. Why are they talking to each other? And we also have geolocation, attached to it. So we know where these, IPs are coming from. And, the minute we see Croatia coming in, or we see China, start coming into your network, and you go, you know what? That's not a good thing.
Unless you happen to be doing a lot of business in Croatia, but if it's an anomalous, if it's all of a sudden out of the blue, you start seeing an IP address in Croatia that's sucking data out.
Right, and that's exactly what we look for.
So you talk to a lot of chief information security officers. I'm sure it's chief security officers. What are they saying about this kind of technology?
It's funny. I asked it. These guys. It's like, well, what are your issues? What are your problems? And most of them come back and say, internal threats. But what keeps me up at night is BYOD. Because our employees just coming in, and they're not bad people. They just basically, they're coming with infected devices, or they're VPNing into the system, and they're infected, and they infect the entire network. And we've seen a lot of people think, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Let me tell you this. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because your employees are inviting these people unknowingly. I mean, we talked about this earlier.
Sure.
Just one of our clients, over the Christmas weekend, he decided to VPN into the network. And sure enough, it was down the movie. All of a sudden, our system just went berserk. I was like, we detect BitTorrents coming from all over the place. And so they, the SOC people saw it. They, connected or disconnected his network and said, what are you doing? Don't download the movie when you're coming in, because most of these sites are, almost like 95% have some sort of a virus on those. So
that's great. Yeah. So really, it finds lots of different problems then. And so, if you talk about alerts, and that's one kind of alert. What other sorts of alerts are you seeing in the information security space?
Some of the thing that we found was that another one of our clients, they were threatened by Hacktivist Anonymous that they're going to come in and do some bad stuff with them. And so they were on high alert, And then all of a sudden, one of the vendors VPNs into the network. So Flow Escape, our software, see a lot of, command and control, reconnaissance, and then their SOC center goes like, shut that guy off. Like, hey, what are you doing? Like, why are you like, I'm not doing anything. All I'm doing is communicating with my system, like that. Then we're supposed to just send an update, right? That's all we're doing. We're just updating the software to the whatever we have out there. So he connects it back again. Sure enough, shows up again, And they disconnected and said, like, go talk to your IT guy, have him clean it. Sure enough, Hacktivist Anonymous broke into their system, a vendor of this customer,
wow,
and came through that. Another one was a bank Trojan that we found that nobody else. The SIM didn't catch it. Their Palo Alto system, none of these guys caught it. And we saw it. They had 15 of their finance department computer infected.
Wow.
And what we do is once we find anomalies like that, we can TiVo replay this and says, okay, now this guy is, we found a problem with this guy. Let's see who else they've been talking to.
That's great.
Find out all of those things.
Really. Now, what about advanced persistent threats that take longer to establish themselves, or the slower ones? What about those?
Good question. They're the one that actually what they do is, like, for instance, there's a command and control behind it. So people are out there driving this thing. Once they're in there, or they have sleepers. When I tell them to wake up at certain times, if you kill some of those, like clean some of the machines, they have sleepers in there that supposed to, like, waking up on a certain date and then phone home, right? What we do is, once we see any kind of anomaly in the system, we build a case, like a detective case. Like you go to a room, you see a bloody glove, you don't see a body, but you see a little blood on the wall, broken window, something happened in here. We don't know exactly what, but it's like something bad has gone in here. So we build a case around that, and then we start following those. We put all of those things on our watch list, and then see their behaviors and who they're talking to, and everybody that they're talking to goes on a watch list. And that's how we catch these guys. As soon as they start doing something, we go, okay, you know what? There's a problem. And that's how we reduce the false positive and false negatives. Just to give you an example, one of our mid-sized customers, they do about like 700 million sessions per month. And out of the 700 million sessions, they get about normal 60,000 alerts a month of something is wrong. Now imagine what kind of InfoSec group do you have to have. Nobody can do it. I mean, most people respond to only 4% of this. What we do is we reduce the number of false positive and false negative and give these guys some of the really, really bad stuff. We pretty much down to about 3,000, 3,500 alerts a month, which makes it about 100 a day. And if you have an InfoSec group of 2 or 3 people, they can manage it.
That's great.
All of them.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks for being here.
Before
we just, any last-minute things or last-second things that you just want to finish up with?
Please visit us at cyberflowanalytics.com. I really appreciate it. We've got a great product, and we're really excited about it.
Thanks for being here. That was great.